he love me, he give me all his money.
Welcome everybody, this is number 3 of TeaTalks, and today I have the amazing, lovely relationship coach Kelly Kristin with me.
Hello everybody.
Kelly Kristin is a relationship coach. She is an expert in healing from toxic relationships. She has coached thousands of women all over the world through the journey to connect back to yourself. She specializes in identifying toxic patterns and cycles within relationship dynamics. She gives you tools to break free from them and heal, in turn restoring a beautiful, enriching and fulfilling relationship with self. I met Kelly out in Miami and could resonate with her on many things. She really loves to empower other women, and it truly is inspiring to watch. You can check out her one-to-one coaching sessions via her website, which I will link below. Are you in need of some guidance? Head over to Kelly's YouTube channel for some incredible advice, also linked below. And if you're into audio, her easy on the ear podcast, The Worshipped Woman, is the perfect driving material. So, I hope you have a nice hot cuppa and some snacks. Let's get stuck in. Right, so this is TeaTalks, first time here.
Got our tea.
What we do is we grab some tea, and we also have some face masks for later.
I can't wait to try it.
5 questions.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, question 1 is, what is a relationship coach and how did you get into it?
That is such a loaded question. Question 1, tell me your life story.
What time?
So relationship coaching, I think, is quite broad because you can have, the broadest sense, it's talking to somebody about your relationships, working through different relationship issues. There's some people that are doing more like couples relationship coaching, people together. There's some people that are working with individuals, maybe just men, maybe just women. So there's a lot of different layers to this. You can even talk about, coaching with, different types of relationships, right? So many things fall under this umbrella. Where I fall into it is relationship coaching for women that have specifically been in toxic relationships that are ready to not have that cycle in their life anymore. So it's really, really about helping women to overcome those toxic cycles so that they can increase their self-worth, so that they can get the love that is actually kind, nurturing, caring. So that's my main focus of relationship coaching. Now, how I got to this place. So it's been a roundabout long process to get here. So I teach in everything from my own life experience. So I was somebody who was involved in a very toxic, abusive relationship for a lot of years. And it was upon leaving that relationship. And when I say leaving, I mean literally like running out of my house at 6 o'clock in the morning with like some stuff thrown in a bag because I had to leave at that second. And I was sitting in my car, just like, I didn't even know where to go. I was like, what am I going to do? What am I even doing? Right? I didn't even have shoes on my feet. Sitting in my car, like shoeless. And I'm just sitting there, and I made a promise to myself, Kelly, you're never going back, and you're going to find out how this happened and how to never allow this to happen in your life again. Mm-hmm. And so from there, it's not like I was like, okay, I'm going to be a relationship coach now. It was a process of finding myself, a process of learning how to process everything that I had been through. Mm-hmm. And so we'll make a very long story short. But, I got in that, after I left that relationship, I got very into personal development. And I started really getting into, positive psychology and what really even allowed me to leave that relationship, and I think this is important, is just how little just a little bit of hope or a little bit of belief can change things for you. Because especially if anybody out there is listening that is stuck in a toxic relationship, it can be incredibly draining. And there's a lot of things that happen inside of your brain and your body that don't really allow you to see a bigger vision for your life. Okay. There's a lot of different neurochemical reactions and things happening in your nervous system, things happening in your brain that really cause you to have this singular focus that you don't even realize it's happening. And you don't realize that so much better for you could exist. But if you can even just get a little bit of hope, or even start believing like something else, there's got to be more, right? There's got to be more to life. There's got to be more here. There's got to be better. If you can start having those thoughts and then get somewhere along the line to say, I deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. And, just start saying that to yourself. And even if in the moment you think, maybe I don't, right? That's okay. You can override that because that's just false programming. But I started getting, more into positive psychology. And at first I was very excited. I literally felt like I had broken out of a prison. Literally. I mean, it was like overnight. People were just like, oh my gosh, Kelly, it's like you're back. Like, something, what happened? What shifted? And I'm like, I'm free. Like my life is going to be so amazing, and of course there were some very scary moments in getting free, but it was pretty soon after that where I really started to realize that I wasn't okay. I had a lot of body stuff going on. I had a lot of anxiety. I had never had that before, really, where I would just try to be still. I'd, pick up this glass and my hand would be shaking, things like that, where I was just like, gosh, I'm so, my body was just on edge and I really felt like I was having a nervous breakdown.
Was that psychologically?
It was psychological, but it was also, and I came to learn this many years later, it was really my body not knowing how to relax because I had been on such high alert for so many years. And my nervous system was so hyperactive that now I was in a place where I could try to relax. My body didn't really know how. So the anxiety and everything is really a manifestation of what's happening inside of your nervous system, what's happening with all that stuck trauma in your body. So as a result of this, I ended up just starting to feel really terrible. I didn't know what was going on still at the time. I ended up having like all of these hormone issues. My hair starts falling out. I go see a bunch of different doctors, all this thing. I get diagnosed with like PTSD. I get diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders, which are like polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a hormonal disease, as well as thyroid disease. And I'm sitting there and I'm being told by this doctor that I'm gonna have to be on like 6 different medications for life. And I sat there and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. So in a previous life, I was actually a nurse. So I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to medications and different things like that. And I'm seeing what he's like trying to prescribe me and give to me. And I left nursing because I did not believe in the model of take this pill and something's gonna happen. I saw it not work for anybody, really. Like there's a lot of different things, and of course if you need to take medication, take medication. I'm not saying anybody should get off their medication for any reason, but for me, I just knew it wasn't really an option. So it was in that moment that I was like, no, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. And of course in the back of my mind I was like, gee, I was a perfectly healthy girl. I went through all this stuff. I'm trying to pretend like I didn't, and now now like all this stuff is just happening. That can't be. There has to be a reason. And I'm talking like, I gained like 25 pounds in like maybe a month's time. Like my body was just going haywire. Things that had never happened before were happening. So it was just very, very unusual. And I could feel just there was some really deep things wrong. So I still at that time didn't really want to get into like the trauma or relationship stuff. And I went into holistic health coaching. So I wanted to really figure out like, well, what's going on with my body? How do I regulate, all of this stuff? And it was there though, the program that I did where they really talked about like, okay, food's important, but what's more important is primary nutrition, your relationships, your spirituality, like what do your self-care, these things are actually more important than what you're eating. And it was like that kind of led me into the gateway of, well, what's going on here? And then from there, I got more into subconscious mind. When I really started understanding how powerful our subconscious is and how our subconscious beliefs basically are our reality, that's when I was like, well, I need to figure out how to change some of these beliefs because this is not right.
It's crazy what you allow your mind to just do and just keep feeding you kind of crap until you're like, wait, where did that even come from?
Yeah. And how we're not aware of it, right? Like nobody teaches us about the subconscious mind. Like, and I have studied very high level biology, biochemistry, like these classes that are, you know, about how your brain's working, anatomy, physiology, all of this stuff that I've studied, you know, through universities and things like that. And they never talk about your subconscious and how your mind's actually working, even in high level, like psychology courses even. So it was very, very interesting for me to really start learning that. And then doing the work, well, how do I change this? So from there, I just kept studying different things. You know, I'm certified in a lot of different modalities in the subconscious mind, NLP, hypnotherapy, Psych-K, all different ways to change the subconscious. And then, you know, I think the work that I was doing in the world was very much more broad. It was like, okay, mindset stuff, things like that. And I didn't really want to touch the toxic relationship thing until I felt like I was totally integrated in my own self, in my own healing, and where I could really come from a place of understanding and groundedness, and also stand for it gets to be better and that never has to be your life again. And so after several years of doing different various types of coaching, I kind of shifted more into the relationship and what I'm doing today, which is really, really specific to helping women understand what's happening. So I firmly believe when you don't understand yourself, you blame yourself, you shame yourself, and that's like a very bad cycle to get into. So I'm really big on understanding. Self-understanding leads to self-acceptance. Self-acceptance leads to self-love. Self-love opens the door for us to be able to self-worship, and that's really my bigger mission now. So I know I said long story short, but that was like still a long story.
Just quickly off the back of that, did someone, like one of your influencers, suggest it to you, or did you come across a course, or what was that like click? This is what I'm gonna focus my energy on.
So nobody really suggested it to me. It was just sort of an evolution of, I don't know, the universe showing me this is what I needed to do. So even if clients were coming to me for other stuff, like maybe more mindset stuff or just more like feminine empowerment, let's say I was doing for a while, there was like a theme of, you know, bad relationships, toxic relationships. It was like this theme that kept coming up, and I was just like, okay, universe, I hear you. I'll do it. I'll go into it. We'll talk about it. Yeah. That's what happened.
Okay, cool. All the ladies out there that are not even aware that they're in a toxic cycle and they think it's okay with certain behaviors, what would you say some of the top signs of a toxic relationship are?
Yeah, I think this is important because when you don't have a lot to compare relationships to, or if you came from a home that was maybe chaotic, you can be in a toxic relationship and not even really know it, right? Until you start seeing maybe other people's relationships and you're like, oh wait, that's not normal. Number one thing I would say is definitely if you feel like you have to walk on eggshells. That's like, you know, you can't be yourself. You can't say what you want to say. You're afraid by speaking and saying the truth to this person that something bad is going to happen. That is surefire you are in a toxic situation. And I want to say, like, the toxic relationship umbrella is quite large, okay? So we have toxic relationships, and there's levels to that, right? There's levels to, okay, toxic meaning unhealthy, right? Like if I eat something and it's toxic for me, that's bad, right? It's unhealthy. So if your relationship is unhealthy, it has a level of toxicity to it. There's multiple levels of that. There's abusive relationships, which are like a different level of a toxic relationship. And there's different forms of abuse, obviously, from physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, narcissistic abuse. There's a lot of different levels to this. So, but a broad thing that you're going to see a lot is just having that feeling of, I can't express myself safely. Emotional safety is incredibly important. If you cannot come to your partner with, you know, hey, this hurt me, or you did this thing, and they don't receive that as, oh really, tell me more, or okay, what's going on, and instead it somehow turns out that it's your fault, that's definitely a toxic thing happening there. More broadly too is, you know, if somebody's trying to control different aspects of you, right? Like they're trying to control who you see, who your friends are, if they're trying to control, I think especially even a generation even a little younger than me, and I would say probably you, is like the idea, I don't know where we started romanticizing the idea of somebody like texting us all the time, or like if we're out with our friends or something and somebody is like repeatedly texting you and it's like they know where you are, you're out with your friends, like that's a problem. That's not like, oh, he loves me so much. That's not like, oh, he loves me so much. And, and he just, yes. Yeah. And that's a problem. Yeah. And I'll tell you this too, there's little signs that happen. One of the first things that I would say is a giant red flag that's often missed is if somebody tries to push a boundary. So if you say, maybe you're just starting to date somebody and they maybe want to get like a sexual too quickly, and you say no, and they push that. And it doesn't matter if you end up doing it or not, but if they push that boundary, that is a very big red flag that this person could potentially become abusive, okay? When people do not respect your boundaries, then there's a lot of different boundaries, right? But if you tell somebody, no, I don't want to do this, and they're
still pushing for it.
Yeah, and they do it anyway, or they say, oh, doesn't matter. Why are you being this way? Why are you being that? Why can't you be like this girl? Why can't you do this? Whatever it is, those are manipulative tactics to get you to basically have power and control over you. And so those kind of things tend to happen early on, and then they get worse and worse as a relationship progresses. But definitely, if you're in a scenario at all, like any kind of name calling, I'm just going to say that too as well. Even if you came from a home where you heard that a lot and that seems normal to you, it's not.
No, that is not okay.
It's not normal. Also, don't compare your relationship to your friends, because I find a lot of people are in very toxic relationships, and I think something that can keep us stuck is if we're like, oh, I thought my relationship was bad, but like Charmina's relationship, right? And that's not true. But I'm saying, we can get into that comparison to try to rationalize in our mind that something, well, at least it's not this, or at least it's not that, or he doesn't do this, or he doesn't do that. It's definitely not a good thing to be doing that. And I also think too, if you start feeling at all like, gosh, I don't deserve this kind of treatment, I deserve better than this, yeah, you do.
Someone that's maybe got children with someone that's completely abusive, you can see it off the bat, they're not hiding it, they're showing that outright. What do they do? Where do they start to even pull away from that? Yeah, so it's definitely complicated when you have children, right? And I think if you are somebody who could possibly be in that position where you feel really, really stuck, there is people in your life that potentially can help you, but you have to ask for the help. Okay, and this is where you have to really understand that shame is a big factor in the behaviors that we do when we're stuck in these cycles, because we don't really want to admit, or we don't, even if people do know, we'll deny, because really we're denying to ourselves because we don't want to feel the shame that it's causing. Shame is a very, very uncomfortable emotion for humans. Yeah. We don't want to feel that. We don't want to feel a lot of big emotions, but shame is like especially on the scale of like, no thank you, don't come back. So we just push it away, and you really ask for help. Ask for help. The people that are there saying, hey, are you okay? Those kind of, there's people that give out an olive branch. Take it, right? And take it one step at a time, one day at a time. I think when we often think of like the big picture of like, how am I going to do this? How is this going to happen? That's a tough question because we can't see the finish line, right? But if there's one action step to take, what is that, right? If it's to call a lawyer, if it's to go talk to somebody at a crisis center, what is the one action step that you could do that would actually move that forward for you? And that's where you want to start, just one step, one day, one step, one day, instead of thinking, how is this going to come? Wow. I could talk to you all day. Why do you think women find it difficult to attract the man they want?
Well, I think that that's kind of a funny question. I don't know. Do they find it difficult? I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think in general, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. We attract our subconscious identity, if you really want to put it that way, right? So when we say we want something, and oftentimes, and this is a lot of the work that I do, is really getting into the subconscious and doing that change work, because what can happen, like oftentimes we're attracted to toxic relationships because we have toxicity in our past. We grew up in an environment where we didn't get to witness love that was like kind, caring, supportive, like maybe what we idealize love to be. And so we could say that we want those things, but our childhood largely influences us. Our subconscious is wide open from being in your mama's womb until like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Our subconscious is completely wide open. And what I mean is that we don't have what in our mind is called the critical factor. So as an adult, you have something called the critical factor that basically allows you to think, if you say something to me like, oh, you're, I don't know, some like an insult to me, and I don't believe that about myself, I'll be like, what's up with that girl? Why does she just say that, right? Like, I understand that has nothing to do with you, or nothing to do with me, it has to do with you. Yeah. I can think about it, and I can just reject that. As a child, you don't have the ability to reject anything, so you believe what's told to you by authority figures. And you believe the most your parents, because you are actually wired to believe them for survival, because we see our parents as like these perfect humans that know everything because they're there to take care of us, right? That's what they're there for, and we're wired to believe them. So if we have parents that are not emotionally intelligent, that aren't, that don't really have great relationships themselves, then we learn that that's normal. And so when we have that as our baseline of this is what's normal, this is what our subconscious identity is dictating to us is normal. That's dictating to us like this is what love is. This is what I get to have. So until we really do the work to say like, hey, I want this thing, but it doesn't show up in my reality, I need to work on this disconnect. Because if you don't do that and you say, I want this thing, but yet you always find yourself in, and this happens a lot where women that I work with get out of one toxic relationship to say, I'm not doing that again, to then I wind up in another one, right? And why that happens is because you could say that, I just want somebody who's like nice to me, who treats me well, who treats me like I'm a queen, and that's what I want, and that's what I'm gonna have. Yet you will reject that person. Why? Because you'll feel like, oh, this is boring. Right. This is, I don't even know, I don't feel the sparks. It's not exciting. Because your nervous system is actually used to emotional chaos. Right. And so to you, that feels comfortable, even though it could be like totally chaotic and you're like, why, I don't want this. Subconsciously, comfort, like familiarity equals good. Like familiarity equals safety. So the primary thing that our subconscious mind does is keep us safe. So familiar equals safe. Familiar is emotional chaos. That equals safe to me. Well, then guess what? I'm going to feel safe in a relationship that is quite toxic and unhealthy. Yeah. And even though I say I want something different, I will reject that because it doesn't feel safe for me. It's not comfortable.
So it comes down to the nervous system as well. Yeah. Crazy.
Everything comes down to the nervous system. Just about everything comes down to the nervous system.
What advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
My 21-year-old self, I would say, love does not hurt. And if it is hurting you, it is not love.
Whoa. Yeah. Oh my, yeah. That's a big one. Wow, okay. Will we send her love?
Oh, so much love. She didn't know what she was doing.
What does it take to keep a healthy balance within an intimate relationship dynamic? Tongue twister.
Yeah. So I think that this is like an ever-evolving thing for me. I'm certainly not perfect in relationships. I don't think that anybody is, right? And I think that sometimes we can hold ourselves to the standard that doesn't actually exist, which is kind of funny. But the balance for me is communication. Like communicating, it's very uncomfortable actually to communicate like when you were upset about something or when you're hurt about something, right? And the more that you can do that, the more that you can be comfortable doing that in your relationship, I think the best. I also think for me, it's very important to have like my number one things are like emotional safety. That's super important. Huge, yeah. And also I think as women, we have to, and I'm speaking very much in like woman-man terms. I'm very much aware that there's a wide range of sexuality, and everybody is going to fall into different parts of that. So just, go where you fit in. I'm just using these terms because this is primarily who I work with. But, I've even worked with women that have been with other women, and but very similar dynamics, okay? But what our work too, a lot of times, is we have to be emotionally safe for men as well. And I think that sometimes in our society, women say that they want like a man to be emotionally open or whatever it is, but then they reject them in that, right? And I think so part of your relationship, a really beautiful, deep, intimate relationship, is allowing your partner to show their deep emotionality, because men are just as emotional as women in a lot of ways. It's just that our society has rejected that aspect of them. And a lot of times as women, we can shame men for that and make them feel like, oh, well, you're a man, you shouldn't be this way or that. So, you really want to question what all of your ideas around that are, and to allow, to be a safe space as well. And I think that's really the most important thing in a relationship for me, is that sort of safety. And then of course it's a balance of, growing together and continuing to work on the relationship. There's never a relationship that's going to be like, 100% perfect forever, and you're never going to have to work on it. Like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, come on.
That does not exist. I don't care how good your relationship is, but if you want to keep it good, you got to work on it. Yeah, it's a work in progress. You got to check in. You got to have
progress.
Progress.
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yeah, it's true. That is so true. What does self-love look like to you?
Yeah, I think for me, self-love is really about honoring myself and my needs above everything else, and really being the woman that I want to be, and holding myself to that woman and continually showing up to be that woman. That to me is self-love. So it's saying yes when I want to say yes. It's saying no when I want to say no. It's taking care of me. It's taking care of me, and it's honoring myself as an individual, even in partnership.
Yeah.
I often say, like, one of the things that gets us into toxic cycles is codependency. Codependency is when we put other people ahead of us. Other people's needs are more important than us. It's like, the people pleasers of the world. It's the people that are, so quick to stop what they're doing to go help somebody, or so quick to put your life on hold because somebody else's problem is bigger than yours. Yeah. And while I think that's a really great notion, that self-sacrifice thing leads you to be very, very empty and oftentimes resentful. And so it's a practice for me to honor myself and my needs. And when you're in partnership, it's realizing that that person's needs are just as important as mine, but not more than. And that's where I think that really nice balance can exist, and where we can stay as individuals filled up with our own love, and then we get to be met with that love.
Wow. Okay.
What does self-love mean to you?
What does self-love mean to me? I think it's along those lines. I need solitary moments, and I don't want to have to explain it. It's something I've always done. And sometimes I just need to go off and stand in the middle of the forest for 4 hours and just not talk. Yeah, I respect that, and I do it when I need to, and not have to explain it. It's like realignment. So I do many things like that for myself that help me feel in alignment again when I feel a bit off track.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And it's really about knowing yourself too. Like, what are the things that make you feel really, really good?
Yeah.
What are the things that make you feel connected again? What are the things that make you feel okay? What are the things that make you feel like the world is a pretty good place to live?
Yes. And keep doing that.
Yeah. Face mask time. Hydrating lavender.
Who's this? Tony Molly. Face masks today. I'm so sorry.
I'll get a little face mask on my leg. Oh gosh.
Yeah, they really. So, what would you tell someone who wants to start their own business, as you've done?
Gosh. You know, I think if you have something to share with the world, you just have to start sharing it. And that's really the most important thing to do is like, it is so funny. You just have to start sharing and start just being yourself and sharing what it is that you want to share. If you have knowledge, if you have whatever. I mean, I think that starting your own business is an amazing, amazing thing. And you can literally do whatever you want in the world these days between the internet and everything. There's so many tools. There are so many tools and there's so many different things you can do. But if you feel like you have a calling to do something, you just have to start with what you have, start with what you know, and it reveals itself. You know, like if you listen to my story about how I ended up doing the work I'm doing today, I didn't start out with the intention that this is what I was going to do. It revealed itself over time. And so, you know, you have an idea, you have to grab that idea, start with the idea, and just see how it unfolds. And I think when you have the energy of something that you feel like is right for you and is in alignment for you, things will open up in the way that they need to. So what do you feel like is the biggest difference between London and LA? Relationship-wise, people-wise, like?
I feel like in London, people are quite in their own lane. There's just certain structures and stuff that are quite tight to loosen up. But I feel like here you have more of a free-flowing kind of creativity that can unfold. The people, I think you have nice people and crazy people, or whatever you want to label them as, everywhere in the world, so that's kind of the same. But the biggest difference for me, which I love, is the weather. Also, yeah, it's the creativity. 100%. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is it.
I do feel like LA is very special in that creative energy here that like really doesn't exist other places. Like even other cities, you know, in America, even in Miami, for instance, like I think that's changing a bit there now with the past couple of years, but there's nothing like the creative energy in LA. People just come out here to, you know, to do things, to create. It's really, there's a magic about it.
I love that. Okay, so this has been TeaTalks. The masks are not ready to come off yet, so we're not taking it off. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope wherever you are in the world that you've had an incredible day. You're going into a nice evening or morning, going into a nice day, and you're smiling. You have something to smile about today.
Smile.
And on that note, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I will see you on the next TeaTalks.
Bye.
Blessings.